Almost everyone knows the story of Joseph in the famine. 7 years of plenty, 7 years of hunger. A man who read a dream, saved grain, and rescued a nation. And almost everyone remembers it the same way. Joseph saved for a rainy day. He put something aside for hard times. Be like Joseph, the lesson goes. Save while you can. It is a good lesson. It is also not what the text actually says he did. Because if you read Genesis carefully, Joseph did something far larger than save. He did not simply fill barns and wait. He built a system, an administration, a structure of officers and cities and stored supply that did not just survive the famine, it absorbed the wealth of the entire ancient world. By the end of the story, Joseph has not merely kept Egypt alive. He has restructured its whole economy. The nation enters the famine one way and comes out of it owned, organized, and centralized under Pharaoh in a way it never was before. That is not the work of a man who saved. That is the work of a man who built. Think about the difference for a moment. A man who saves ends the famine with an empty barn and a grateful family. Joseph ended it with the deeds to a nation. Those are not the same act done at different sizes. They are two different things entirely. One stores value, the other builds a structure that gathers it. And hidden in the Hebrew of the passage is the single word that marks the difference. A word most translations pass over. A word that separates the person who merely stores from the person who builds. This is the rule that turns consumers into builders. It is sitting in a story you already know. And once you see it, you cannot read Joseph the same way again. Stay to the end, and there is a prayer waiting. But first we have to look at what everyone thinks the story is about. Start with the version everyone knows. Pharaoh has two dreams. 7 fat cows swallowed by 7 thin ones. 7 full ears of grain swallowed by 7 withered ones. No one in Egypt can read them. Joseph, a Hebrew prisoner, is brought from the dungeon. And he tells Pharaoh what is coming. 7 years of abundance. Then 7 years of famine, so severe the abundance will be forgotten. This is where most retellings stop for the moral. Good times do not last, so store for the bad ones. Save in the summer to survive the winter. And on the surface, the text seems to support it. Joseph does gather grain. He does lay it up. Listen to the plan as he first gives it. Genesis chapter 41, verse 34. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, and take up the 5th part of the land of Egypt in the 7 plenteous years. Take up the 5th part, a 5th of every harvest, set aside for 7 years. If you stop reading there, the lesson is simply about saving a percentage. Set aside a 5th, keep a reserve, and that is the Joseph most people carry, a careful saver with a good habit. But look again at the very first thing the plan requires. Before a single grain is stored, before any 5th is taken up, the verse says something else. Let Pharaoh appoint officers over the land. Not let Pharaoh build barns. Not let Pharaoh save grain. The first instruction is to appoint, to put people in position, to establish an order over the land. The saving is not the plan. The saving is what the plan produces. The plan itself is a structure. And that distinction is the whole story. Before we go into the Hebrew, one question, and drop your answer below with your city and country. How were you taught the story of Joseph in the famine? As a lesson about saving for hard times? Or did anyone ever show you what he actually built? Note it in the comments. Because what comes next is the part of the story that usually goes unread. Return to that first instruction. Let Pharaoh appoint officers over the land. The word translated appoint is the Hebrew word Paqad. Paqad is a rich word, and saving is not what it means. It means to appoint, to oversee, to put in charge, to muster, to attend to to set someone over something. It is an administrative word, a word of structure and oversight. When a commander numbers and orders his army, that is Paqad. When someone is placed in charge of a house, that is Paqad. It is the word for building an order that will run beyond the moment. So the first act of Joseph's plan is not to save, it is to appoint, to establish overseers, to place officers across the land, to build an administration that can gather, hold, and one day distribute. Now hear what that does to the story. The grain is the visible part, but the grain was never the plan. The plan was the system that could handle the grain. Read the next verse and watch the structure appear. Genesis 41, verse 35. And let them gather all the food of those good years that come, and lay up corn under the hand of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities. Let them gather, them, the officers who were appointed. Under the hand of Pharaoh, a chain of authority. In the cities, a distributed network of stores, not one great barn. This is not a man saving, this is a man designing. Officers, oversight, cities, a chain of command, a system that turns 7 years of surplus into a machine that can feed the world. And here is the difference the word exposes. The difference between a consumer and a builder. A consumer, handed 7 years of plenty, would consume it, eat the surplus, enjoy the good years, and meet the famine empty. A saver, one step better, would set some aside, store a portion, and survive the famine until the store ran out. But a builder does something neither of them does. A builder takes the surplus and constructs a system with it. Officers, cities, administration. Something that does not just hold the abundance, but puts it to work. And that system outlasts the surplus that built it. That is Paqad, not storing what you have, building something that manages, multiplies, and deploys what you have. The consumer asks, how much can I enjoy now? The saver asks, how much can I keep for later? The builder asks a different question entirely. What can I build now that will still be producing when the good years end? To see how far this went, you have to follow the story past the famous part. Most retellings end with the grain stored and the family reunited. But the text keeps going, and what happens next shows exactly what Joseph built. First, the scale of the gathering. Genesis 41, verse 48. And he gathered up all the food of the 7 years, which were in the land of Egypt, and laid up the food in the cities. All the food, 7 years, distributed across the cities, each city holding the harvest of the fields around it. Not one central hoard, but a network, a system with nodes. Then the famine comes, and the system does what a mere store never could. Genesis 41, verse 57. And all countries came into Egypt to Joseph for to buy corn, because that the famine was so sore in all lands. All countries. The famine was everywhere, but only Egypt had built the structure to hold abundance through it. And so the wealth of every surrounding nation began to flow toward the one place that had built a system. A saver would have fed his own household through the famine. Joseph fed the world, and in doing so drew the world's wealth into Egypt. Follow it one more step, because this is where the word Paqad reveals its full weight. By the next chapters, the money of Egypt in Canaan has moved. Genesis 47, verse 14. And Joseph gathered up all the money that was found in the land of Egypt, and in the land of Canaan, for the corn which they bought. And Joseph brought the money into Pharaoh's house. All the money. The system he built did not simply survive the crisis. It absorbed the wealth of nations through it. The famine that ruined every unstructured economy became the mechanism by which Joseph's structure gathered everything to itself. This is the part the rainy day reading misses completely. Joseph did not save Egypt in the sense of helping it endure. He rebuilt Egypt. He entered a decentralized farming economy and left behind a centralized one, organized under Pharaoh, its wealth gathered, its structure permanent. The crisis did not shrink what he built. The crisis was the moment his structure proved itself, while everything unstructured around it collapsed. That is the difference between storing and building. A store is spent by the crisis. A system is proven by it. So what is the rule hidden in all of this? The rule that turns a consumer into a builder. It is an order of operations, a sequence, and the wisdom literature states it directly. Proverbs chapter 24, verse 27. Prepare thy work without, and make it fit for thyself in the field, and afterwards build thine house. Read the order carefully, because the order is the entire lesson. First, prepare the work in the field. The field is what produces. The field is the system that generates. And afterwards, build your house. The house is what you consume. The house is where you live and rest and enjoy. The proverb is not against the house. It is about sequence. Build the thing that produces first. Build the thing that consumes second. Almost everyone reverses it. The consumer builds the house first, buys the life, the comfort, the visible things, and hopes the field will somehow catch up. The builder prepares the field first, establishes what produces, and lets the house come from what the field yields. This is what Joseph did at national scale. He did not build Egypt a more comfortable present. He built the field first, the system, the administration, the structure that produces, and everything else came from it. Now bring it down to a single life, because the rule is the same whether you are administering Egypt or managing one household income. When money comes to a consumer, it becomes things. It is converted into what can be enjoyed and used up. The house built first. When money comes to a builder, some of it becomes a field before it becomes a house. It is converted into something that produces, a skill that raises your value, a tool that does work, an asset that returns something, a structure that keeps generating after the money that made it is gone. That is the switch. Not earning more, not even saving more, converting what comes in into something that produces, before you convert it into something you consume. The consumer's money dies where it lands. The builder's money is sent out to work. Same income, same hands, a different first move. Picture two people who earn the exact same amount this year. The first converts it into a lifestyle, a better car, a larger rent, the visible marks of arrival. When the year ends, the money is gone, and what it bought is already losing value. The house was built first. The second takes a portion of the same income and builds a field with it, learns the skill that raises what they can charge, buys the tool that lets them produce, funds the small structure that earns while they sleep. When the year ends, the money is also gone, but unlike the first person, they are left holding something that still produces. The field was prepared first. Same year, same income. One built a house that consumes. The other built a field that provides. And in 10 years, they are not living in the same world. And notice, this is not the counsel of saving for its own sake. A hoard sitting untouched is still just a house with the doors locked. The point was never to store the surplus. The point is to build the field that keeps producing surplus. Joseph's grain was not the treasure. The system that gathered and moved it was. Read the whole story, and the familiar lesson turns out to be too small. Joseph was not a saver who kept a reserve. He was a builder who was appointed over a system. Paqad. And the system he built did not merely survive the famine. It gathered the wealth of the world through it. That is the pattern hidden in a story you already knew. The consumer spends the good years. the saver stores them. The builder builds something in them that outlasts them. And the rule is in order of operations. Prepare the field before you build the house. Send money out to produce before you bring it in to consume. Build first. Enjoy from what the building yields. That is how a consumer becomes a builder, not with more income, but with a different first move. The same abundance that a consumer would eat, a builder turns into a field. And the field, unlike the meal, is still there when the good years end. If this opened a story you thought you already understood, subscribe. Each study takes one passage and reads it in full, the way it was written. New scrolls every Tuesday and Friday, and to close, a prayer drawn from the story itself. An acknowledgement of the one who gives both the abundance and the wisdom to build with it. Father, you are the one who sends the years of plenty. Every good year I have ever had came from your hand, not my cleverness. Forgive me for the seasons I consumed the abundance and built nothing, for treating the good years as something to enjoy rather than something to build with. Give me the wisdom of Joseph, not merely to store, but to build, to prepare the field before I build the house, to send what you provide out to work before I bring it in to rest. Make me a builder in the years of plenty, so that I have something to give in the years of famine. Let what I build serve more than myself, as Joseph's structure fed the nations. And keep me from the pride of Pharaoh's court, remembering that the dream, the reading, the abundance, and the wisdom to build were all yours. In the name of Jesus Christ, who prepared a place for us before he called us home. Amen. One story. Read in full. A man who was handed 7 years of abundance and did not consume it and did not merely store it. He was appointed over it, Paqad. And he built a system that turned a famine into the moment his structure gathered the wealth of the world. That is the half of the story that usually goes unread. Not Joseph the saver, Joseph the builder. So when the good years come, and they will, the question is not how much of it you can enjoy, and not even how much you can store. It is what you will build with it that is still standing when the good years end. Prepare the field, then build the house. That is the rule that turns consumers into builders.